It's got a really good diagram of how alley cropping is kind of done, you know. How leaves fall, nutrient cycles go on, nitrogen gas from is escaped through the roots and all that stuff. Well, what happens to that nitrogen? Where does it come from? And on the right side, you have, in alley cropping, nutrients transferred to soil primarily through the prunings. So you're basically like composting your materials from your fruit trees right near your fruit trees. And then you're using other plants to create an environment in which microorganisms can exist and break down those materials faster for you, hold onto the soil around it, prevent weeds. It's really just a really great system. So if you're thinking about orchard cropping, it's certainly a technique. There's 1,000 other techniques. It talks a little bit about double hedgerows and how to map out your orchard to get the most out of it. You don't necessarily have to do it in a line. So you're looking at page 6. Gives you descriptions on how to do the hedgerows and the crops. And you don't necessarily have to do it in orchard rows. Just take a look at this. If you have any more questions about orchard cropping, I can answer them. But it's pretty plain and simple. Put a fruit tree in, make sure it survives, and then wait a couple years. And then when harvesting starts, make sure you have the labor in line to harvest it. You have the market set up to get rid of it. And you have timelines set up for distribution of your materials. So how long from when it's picked to when it gets to the store, and understanding all that aftermarket harvest stuff. Okay? Who's your orchard contact? Anybody know Mark? Mark's a fruit tree dude. Really, really nice guy. He's over at Komohana. I think that's his direct line. Guys know Glenn Sacco? Hard to pin down. Really hard to schedule, but very knowledgeable. So if you can get him, see if you can get Glenn involved in your fruit trees. Also, if you remember, I'm going to email you guys PDFs of these slides, so you don't need to write it down. You'll have it. I'll give it to you. I promise. Okay, last one, nursery. What is it? Well, it's essentially just growing plants in pots. That's all it is. Growing plants in pots. What do you need to understand about if you're going to do nursery? Soil dynamics, how does soil behave, how do plants interact with soil, how do microbes come into play. You need to get all these things, understand all those things. As far as pros, incredible market exists. Even in this bad economy, people buy flowers. Blows my mind. There's always going to be a market in it. Unless, we're in a depression. Even still, in a depression, people are rich and people are poor. Okay? People still have money in bad economic times. And those people, they buy flowers. They have enough money, they can buy flowers. So, talking about hotels, you're talking about restaurants, you're talking about these places that they can buy every flower you have in your land, and then the next day they need flowers from somewhere else. They're that big of buyers. So you could also do things like plant rentals, which is a big thing for hotels. They only want certain seasonal plants coming in during certain times, and then you can rent them to hotels, and then they give them back. One of the biggest ones that people do in Hawaii is poinsettia and Christmas. So they'll actually ship in poinsettia in June, July, do the cuttings, propagation, get it all ready to go. Come December, right after Thanksgiving, it's all set, ready to go. They're all red and beautiful, and then they rent them all out to the hotels, and they put them down the rows of all the countertops and in the restaurants, all that stuff. And when they're done, what do they do with them? They don't throw them away. They give them back. And then they use those to propagate the next round. So it's actually a very profitable business. Okay, I don't know if that's a pro or not, but it's just it's a way to do it. Cons, environmental issues, overhead cost, labor cost. If you have a nursery, you better have a propagator. You better have a marketer. You better have a driver. You better have a, somebody that's a plant maintenance specialist, acquisition specialist, materials acquisitions guy. So you're talking about a major business, yeah? Very important to understand crop selection. Not so much because if you want to know if you can grow it or not, it's more about, is there a market for it? Every year, nursery plant trends change. Those trends are not dictated by you and your taste. Just like fashion, they're dictated by somebody else in another country about 2 years before you make the decision. So Holland and Thailand basically dictate what plants are popular, where and when. So doing your research and knowing that this season out of Thailand, there is this hype over this certain plant, then you may want to get involved in that as your crop selection for this season. So being as on top of the nursery industry as fashion experts are to fashion, okay? It's that important. Understanding propagation. How can you take one plant and turn it into 1,000 plants? Can you do that? A lot of folks who are involved in nursery are way involved in tissue culturing, which is basically chopping a plant down to a cellular level and then creating a plant from that one cell. And it's actually genetically the same as every other plant that they make from one cell on that one specific plant, to the point where they can make 500,000 of exactly the same genetic structure in a plant without any major genetic altering or lab work. You can actually just literally cut a piece of a plant down to a cellular level and create a whole plant based upon that one cell. Okay? Almost all cells in a plant are stem cells. You got an issue of harvesting. This is coming into play when we're talking about like bamboos and bigger trees and that kind of thing. When to make them available to the public. I can take a bamboo tree, a black bamboo tree this big, and sell it for $30. But if I waited 2 seasons and got it up to 10 feet and put it in a 40-gallon, I could sell it for $200. So it's almost worth the time and wait and understanding when should you harvest and when should you sell these products and when can you make the most money off of them. IPM plan. Necessary materials. You're going to need that clean water. You're going to need that capital. You need to have a master level understanding of building code and construction regulations. If you're talking about greenhouses or any kind of structures, propagation houses and that kind of thing. You have to have a great understanding of that physiology and morphology of plants. Like I said, you have to understand soil. But more importantly, unlike most farms, this is a customer service-based industry. You have to be a great salesman. You have to retain your customers. You have to create a new product, an exciting product every single season. It's very, very hands-on in that sense. So, customer service, you have to have an understanding of landscaping. Most people that are involved in nursery are going to want to landscape with that. Do you understand that industry, and do you understand engineering and dynamics, and where do you plant what and why? Understanding wholesale product distribution. You're going to have relationships as a nursery owner that you're going to want to build with places like Home Depot, where they will actually buy up 25, 250 of these specific plant every single week till the end of time. So you build up those relationships and you get 3 or 4 of those, and then you, no matter what happens in the retail market, that you could at least have a wholesale life. Okay? Labor management. You got to be able to tell what people, what to do, and when, so that it makes sense financially and efficient as far as time efficiency. IPM and planning. Who's your nursery contact? Well, I only recommend one. Problem is, she is incredibly busy all the time, but will reply to your email in a timely fashion, okay? She'll do her best. This is Dr. Kang Chia. She's a Nursery Management Associate Specialist. Does anybody know what that means? Associate Specialist is somebody who's so badass that the university pulls them out of the real world offers them a whole bunch of money to come and educate people no matter what the cost because of their level of understanding and knowledge. And then for that person to usually spend almost 80 to 90% of their time doing research or trying to advance the industry in which they came from through the university. So that's what she does. She's a tissue culture specialist and all-around awesome chick. I love this woman to death. She is the reason why we have the business plan side of this class coming up. She designed that side of the class. And I've been working closely with her for about 4 years. So definitely one of my right-hand womans. Okay, so get her an email. Let her know you want to get involved in this nursery industry. And sometimes she'll just fly on out over here and help you out if she has the time. Okay? This is from last class, so don't pay attention to some of this. We're going to do a 3-hour lecture. I stretched it out so we have plenty of time. We're not going to the organics place. I don't know where we're going yet. I still don't know where we're going. I tried 2 other spots and nobody got back to me. We may end up just doing a composting exercise on campus. I'll just bring in a bunch of materials and show you how to layer correctly a compost pile. And I think the 3-hour lecture and that activity would probably be enough for you. I don't want to hurt anybody that day. Hopefully you brought boots and shoes today. Also bring boots and shoes next time, definitely. Anytime we go anywhere, bring rain gear because it's like clockwork. Every single time we leave this class, it starts raining. Okay, so it's going to rain, guarantee, every single field trip, just because that's what happens every time I take a class anywhere. So bring rain gear, bring umbrellas, bring the big ones, because it gets pretty rainy some of the spots we go to. Okay, we're going to do our lecture, and then we're going to go off to wherever we go. We might just go to the back of the building. I need you to make sure that you understand soil fertility basics. Everybody's read that already, right? Please do the reading in the book that I assigned for soil. And please turn in your cropping assignment that I'm going to print off right now and then give to you. That's due next week. Okay? Any questions about what I just talked about? Do you have... Did I instill some ideas as far as the business plan goes? Remember, this is all going back to the next class, okay? Trying to stimulate ideas for you guys to make money. All right, let me run to my office real quick, and I'm going to print off this assignment, and we'll take off. Use the restroom.